Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Catch-Up. And as always, joining us from West Virginia, it's the co-host of the Weekly Catch-Up, Jeffrey K. Holbrook, and I'm starting on a different screen this week.
Well, sometimes a little bit of change is a good thing, I guess. Episode 30 that we're doing today.
Episode 30, that's right. Now you're big, larger than life now again. So we've got our normal things happening again. So
oh yeah,
it just seems like yesterday we did the last show.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, how long has Blab been gone now? Because how many episodes did we do on Blab, and then all of a sudden Blab just quit, and then all of a sudden here we've been doing it for quite a few episodes after Blab expired.
And that's right, and that's how we got going with it, because we thought, well, we'll do it on Blab, and that was such a good format, and we thought, well, we'll do a proper show. And once we figured out the logistics of getting the screen on so I can hear you, you can hear me, and we can do a few different shots, we started doing that. So. And how here we are. But I just can't believe it. As I said, we're up to show 30, or is it? Yes, show 30.
Show 30.
Incredible on that. So, and I'm just amazed that we've got something to say for an hour each week.
Well, the reason why we started the show in the first place was just in self-defense, because, you know, where we met on Blab and then we were talking, after a couple of 3-hour marathons, it kind of became clear that the only way we were going to be able to keep this thing under control would be if we started a show and then we had just made sure we would quit after about an hour. And so we usually go over 5 minutes or so, but still, it was self-defense.
Well, that's right. Yes. But I enjoyed it. And that's exactly why we did it, because it said, I don't know what we was talking about for 3 hours at a time, but we said, well, yeah, we'll have a chat each week, but we'll just stick to an hour, because I think something like Blab just got very addictive. And if you went there, you ended up speaking to somebody else, and you just thought, I'll just have 5 minutes in on that, and you just could not do it. But I think that's probably what was the undoing of Blab. There was too many people having too long a conversations, and not enough variety, say as much, to make any money out of it. That's what I think were probably what happened. Just how do they monetize it, and could never really figure out how to get any money out of it.
The people they really got mad at, though, were the people that were showing up once a week and doing shows. I mean, they wanted to be the video stream Facebook thing. Of course, now there's Facebook Live, but they wanted to be the Facebook that people just showed up and actually spoke to each other instead of just typing things back and forth. And so they were kind of mad at us for all stopping like once a week and doing shows. They wanted us on there every day.
Well, that's the thing. But, and a lot of people there, you had your regulars on there all the time. It was very rare that you just got total a lot of, well, not nobodies, but you mean new people in there. There were always the same ones, and you got to know them because they came in at regular times, and in different countries you knew certain ones would come on at night time where it was their Friday morning and that. And I got quite used to just popping in and having a listen to a few people on that. But as you said, there's so much of this social media stuff about these days. To be quite honest, I'm over a lot of it. I'm on Facebook, but I really don't do a lot with it these days. But now they've got me thinking again now with this Facebook Live, because I think it might be even one that I could sort of go into and give a try a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that I know a lot of people that are actually doing it. I mean, I've seen families when they go on vacation, sometimes they're doing it. But there are people going on there who, just have something to say. And they're actually starting to gather quite the audience among their friends. And then other people are finding out about it. And they're actually meeting people they normally wouldn't have met because they're putting on a bit of a show on Facebook, and people come across it, and and other people tell them about it. And there you are, So how was your Christmas?
Well, very, won't say dull, but as I said, not very exciting on that. But that's the way I like it. I don't like to have too involved at Christmas. But I just picked my mother up and took her to out for Christmas dinner.
Cool.
And that's or Christmas lunch, whatever you want to call it, and enjoy that, because it's always good to have somebody else cook the food, and then you don't have to. You can just go, pay the money, go there, and come back, and it's quite easy. But Mum being sort of in a wheelchair these days, you have to get the wheelchair taxi, which is all sorts of organisation to get going. But I must say, it always pays you to look after people. This is what I was saying to Mum the other day, that when I was there, went and picked her up, I had it arranged for at 11:30 pickup to get out, so I could get to the place before lunchtime. And a 1:30 pickup. So because we don't hang around a lot of places, so I thought 1:30 will be enough to get a pickup and come back. And some other people was there leaving at the same sort of time as us, and they'd been waiting sort of since 10:30 for a wheelchair taxi to come to get them. Oh. And they were most annoyed when mine came all on time and all that, and they were still waiting. And one of the people who was waiting when we were going, they got to their place at 1:30, and I said we were nearly back by then. So,
yeah.
And I said but a lot of these people just have once a year, and then they book something and expect everything to happen like that. But I consistently throughout the year book it and take Mum out. And then also as well, what we're not very good at in Australia, we're not very good at tipping. We don't tip. Like it's unheard of tipping in Australia. But what that's the only place I have tipped when I take Mum out. Because when they look after you, when a taxi driver comes on time and always and does that, I always give him a bit extra, because I always feel, I don't know about you, but I feel that I've got a better chance of being picked up if I look after him than the next person who doesn't. And it seems to have worked out well for me, because, and as I said, I don't do too often, so it's well worth the thing. And that always worries me that on a Christmas day is, what do I do if the taxi doesn't turn up on the way back?
Oh.
But I have a contingency plan. I'm not silly, where the lunch was not too far. So if I was stranded, it would take me probably about 40 minutes walk with the wheelchair, so I could get back. And I took, because it was about 100 degrees on Christmas Day, so very hot. It was about 36, 37 Celsius. And so I took my sun hat and took Mum's sun hat and said, "What are you bringing that for?" I said, "Well, just in case we get stranded." Because I said, if we're walking out in that, we'll fry without a hat on or something. So I thought I'd covered everything. So once we did that, and then came back, and poor old William didn't like being left, the dog. He thought, Christmas Day, and he's leaving me all on my own. But then he got the rest of the time with me, so didn't do much else there. But even on Christmas Day, I went down to see the horse and gave them, 5 kilos worth of carrots, and that kept them happy. So it's kept my sort of normal routine. But other than that, didn't do a great deal, because it had been quite warm and muggy here. But I practiced a bit of my music, so still trying to get into the Kronos, and I've got a little bit further. I can sequence a little bit, so I've been able to sequence, 3 or 4 tracks and figured that out. But now I've just got to learn how to play it properly. So that's the next challenge. But at least I'm feeling a lot more comfortable in doing that now. And as I said the other time, I saw somebody on the internet said they were overwhelmed with how confusing it was. But then 6 months after they had it, it all seemed to make sense. And the thing is, what I find really strange with it is, with all the computers around and all the different systems around, this has to have something totally different. Like a computer, if you want to save a file, you just save it, don't you? Or if you want to save it somewhere else, it's save as. No, not their convention. How you save something is, okay, you've got the song there, so you have to press the disc button, and then you press the tab that says save. Then you have to do the pull down menu that says the sequence. Then it comes up to, then where do you want to save it there? Then do you want to name it? Then you've got to write, it's not just save, but there must be a method in their madness, because I mean, they're very successful in what they do. So it must just be just me getting used to it. But if it wasn't, they would have changed it years ago. But there must be a method in their madness in the way that they do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, it's one thing about it. If you have the best keyboards, then people just have to learn to do it the way you want it done. It's just Apple kind of does that to people quite a bit. They just do whatever they want, and everybody else just has to get over it. I guess Microsoft's the same way. Our Christmas was kind of interesting. It was, again, very laid back, very quiet. Of course, we ended up. I worked off that morning, and so I slept pretty much most of the day, and then it's just my wife and myself, and so we had a very quiet evening, and then we waited until the next day, the 26th, actually, to have our main Christmas dinner. But what was interesting is, for you, it's summertime to have Christmas. We always have Christmas in the wintertime, so you expect the temperature to be one side or the other of 30 degrees, which is freezing. We cleared 70 degrees on Christmas Day. And tomorrow is supposed to be, was tomorrow the 28th? Well, yeah, no, it'll be the 29th, right? It's supposed to be 64 tomorrow. I mean, it's wintertime here. And it's not supposed to be, spring-like temperatures or, almost summer temperatures. I mean, it's just been that way now for the last 3 or 4 days. Coming up to it, until a couple days before Christmas, it was in the 40s, 30s. And then all of a sudden, just in time for Christmas, big warm front came through. And like you say, it's been hanging around one side or the other of 70 the entire time for the last few days. I was like, what? I almost didn't wear the sweater, Okay, I'll tell you what. We really enjoy in the spring and in the fall, especially having our windows open and just letting the house circulate the air and everything, keep from being cooped up. You never get to do that in the middle of the winter time. Well, for 2 solid days, the last couple of days, we have had our windows open and everything, airing out, and it's just great, But anyway, that's the way Christmas worked out around here. And like you say, the temperatures are just shocking. It's just really funny to see.
But yours, I think your area is a bit like here. We get ours, usually the killer days, the hot ones in February, and you'd probably get the real cold days, do you, in February, do you? Or
Yes. Yeah. Usually if you're going to get hit, winter or January has a tendency to be fairly bitter cold. And then February, and I mean, you can have a good snowstorm in January, no problem at all. January and February, when you're most apt to get hit with a great big old snowstorm. But then occasionally we've had snowstorms as late as April. Generally March, March is it's starting to tend into spring, but then you can have a real sudden surprise snowstorm, and those are usually really big whenever that happens.
Well, I know I went to England once, and I thought, I don't want to go peak season, but I'll go in April, because I thought that'll be nice and good, not too hot, not too cold. And God, was I wrong? It was so. I've never been so cold in my life, and it wasn't as cold as it should be, but it was freezing. It was, and that was April as well. And I thought, I'm sure it would have been out of it, but they had a bit of a cold snap back then. But I tend to forget how cold can get when you're here, because we say, we're freezing in winter, and like you said, not even 45, it's 50. That's what we would call sort of freeze. It's so freezing here. But like you were saying about airing out the place, I was just thinking today when I came home, you never have a good combination. It's either too cold to leave the doors open for it to air out, or like today, I can't leave the doors open because it's hotter outside than it is inside, so it just gets too hot. So today I've got the air conditioners going, and that because it's been very muggy today. So so it should be in summer. That's what the summer's all about, hotness, and especially in Australia.
Hot and humidity and stuff like that. You remember last week when I told you that turned off the updates on my computer?
Oh yes, they did. It's
Well,
what
that
happened.
that lasted for about a week, and then one came through anyway. I mean, and
Oh,
I had no choice. It'd come down to the thing, and I don't know. This one must have been really special or something. But even though I've got it
yeah.
turned off, I've got them turned off completely. And I came down to turn the computer off. It had been on for a few hours. I went to turn it off, and I had the choices were, what was it? Sleep, update, and shut down, or update and restart. And that's all I had. I had no other options of any kind. It's kind of like, what in the world? Here we go. And so, it was a few days out from when we were going to be doing the show. So I thought, well, okay, that'll give me 3 or 4 days to try to get this straightened out. And so I went ahead and turned it off and let it do its thing. And when I woke up, I did it before I went to bed. So whenever I woke up several hours later, of course, on the screen is the little thing going around like I had my trouble with before. But then I just powered it down, force powered it down, started it back up, and it's been starting fine ever since. So I have no idea what that was about, but evidently it was important enough to where they forced it past my permissions and forced me to have the update.
It's strange that, isn't it? Because I've had my Dell, and I'm sure I've switched mine off, but I switched it on the other day, and it took a while because it was updating. But you just never know. And at least even on the Apple one, I like them. They give you the option. It says there's an update available. Do you want to take it? No. Later, tomorrow, and it will keep reminding you until you do if you want to. And I like it like that. I like to be in control. Because, like you said, you don't know what you're going to be doing. Yes, that's fine. I don't care if it takes 2 or 3 hours, but I need to know when it's going. So, like when my Mac comes and says, this will require a restart, well, no, I'll wait until after the show, even if it's 2 hours before, because I thought it might not do that. But I always get worried with all sorts of upgrades because I was just talking about the keyboard before. Cronus have a new update to their operating system. And it just does these few extra things, but I'm still a bit dubious to upload it yet because, like you do for normal software, I'll wait for a week or two to see if it does anything, other horrible things to it. Shouldn't do, but I think it's all, if I don't have to, I've got enough trouble learning what it's got now. I don't want to have to learn the new features that it's got as well. So I figure, because one of the options, I think it's to make creating splits and that a little bit easier. But I thought, well, if I learn the other way, will still be there, so it's not going to make much difference anyway.
There was a new update to Audacity here. It's probably been 6 months or more ago, and I still haven't upgraded. I've thought about going ahead and downloading my laptop. I have an older laptop. It has Windows 10 on it now. It's only got about 6 gig of RAM or something. But I thought about maybe downloading the new version to that old laptop, and just getting a feel for it on there and just seeing what's going on and see how good it is. And then I would have something I could fall back on if I downloaded it to here and then it crashed everything just in case. Then, I would actually have something to fall back on to edit a show if that was the case. But I just haven't gotten around to doing it. I'm so comfortable with the one I've got. They say, that the noise reduction is better and, things like that's better. I just haven't, of course, I don't have that much noise I'm pulling out of it anyway, because I'm actually just ordered some more sound treatment for the room, some more sound treatment for the room. My wife and I are going to start doing something for our friends over at the Cinema Toast Crunch podcast. We're going to start doing some little things ourselves, like they do, the movie reviews and everything like that.
Yeah.
My wife is a huge classic movie buff, and she knows a lot about the individual actors and their lives and different things that they've done. And so I think we're going to do a few little shorter show. It's not going to be quite the length that they're doing, but classic movie reviews. And we're also going to do some little short shows that have to do with just us here. You see this microphone sticking out here. Well, I've got her one pointing in the other direction over there. We're going to put a table between us, and we're going to be facing each other and actually recording an audio show on ourselves right here. And so she's going to be talking right back into all this big massive sound treatment I've got here. And So I need some sound treatment on the other side of the room to keep my voice from bouncing back at me where I'm sitting at now. So it's going to be that way. And so I'm getting some things over on that side of the room to keep myself from echoing into her microphone whenever we start talking to each other.
But that's really good, though, because if you enjoy things like you said, the classic movies and that, why not talk about them? Because there's a lot of people out there that don't know a lot of these things, because the thing is with on the internet, a lot of people think, oh, everybody will know that. But there's always thousands of people who don't. It depends. Like I've done the same sort of search on Google for months and months and months, the same search, and you get totally different things all the time, and things you've done keep doing the same type of search, and then you'll find something that was only created 3 months ago, and you thought, well, I've been searching for that. Why didn't that come up?
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody's got something just that bit different way and explain it a bit better, because everybody's got their own way of explaining things, and some people you just like a lot better than other ways that they get presented. So, and there's so much content out there. There's always an audience for most things. Well, I hope there is. I hope there's somebody watching this anyway.
Yeah, hope so. The one of the things I always found fascinating about artists, be it singers or actors or whatever, is what they do when they're not acting. Because you find, for instance, George Montgomery, the old actor George Montgomery, an amazing sculptor. I mean, he's just a big sculptor. Then you have the singer Kenny Rogers is a photographer. He has done a lot of photography of celebrities and stuff like that. I mean, he's just an amazing celebrity photographer. Then you have the English actor. What is his name? He was on. Can't remember what his name is, but anyway, this guy was Dudley Moore, a concert pianist, huh?
He always, because he quite often became, because so silly and silly actor. Then he came up with the concert, and it was just fantastic. You just couldn't believe it, could you? That he just have to have been such a outrageous actor and that, and just doing something so serious. But really, when you think about it, it makes sense, because you have to be really skilled and dedicated to that. And being an actor, you've got to really be on the point to remember those lines and that. And and I know from just doing voiceovers and doing things, when you've got the script, it's hard enough when you're reading it, let alone somebody pointing a camera and you've got to remember it word for word, which has got the inflection when you're reading it. But I had a new appreciation of actors after doing just a little script work myself. It's just quite amazing. So to have that, the dedication to that makes sense for being a concert pianist. Maybe I could do that.
Oh yeah. No problem at all. We're getting you all set up and right here. Remember, I was the one that talked you into the Chronos therapy.
That's right.
We had that's another thing, that everybody that you meet can do something that you don't know about. I mean, everyone you meet, I meet people at work who are, I know them in that work environment. I work for the Postal Service. They're sorting mail. They're doing this. They're doing that. And then all of a sudden you find out that this one guy umpires, Little League baseball games. And he's like one of the high guys in their association of umpires and stuff like that. And he does that. There are people, again, who have, most people have looked at me and say, yeah, I thought you were a podcaster. And it usually has to do with how much I like to talk and the sound of my voice. This is what they usually the reasons that, you would have to be a podcaster or explode, is what they tell me.
Well, you'll get this. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, what's a podcast?
I haven't heard that in a while.
So I thought, I've never been asked that, so I thought, no, what is it?
Okay, the actual definition involves the distribution of audio or video content. You can also do PDFs and things like that too, through an RSS feed with an enclosure tag. That's the actual definition. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're doing a show. It's the way the show is distributed. So if you're sending it through an RSS feed with an enclosure tag, then that's a podcast. And again, it can be a PDF file. But it's
I would have never
that's
that
what the
weird.
definition of a podcast is.
Oh, that's very strange. But that's the thing with as well what you were saying earlier on of what was I doing in Christmas. It gave me a little bit of time. I was starting to catch up on a few podcasts because like here on Relate, Rick does Elin Chat, and it's an hour-long show, and you get so bogged into other things, you've got to find time to do it. And I've been getting behind, so I was watching a couple of shows trying to catch up on that one as well, and also to do the Lectura Live, and I'm into the e-learning, and I love all that, so I've been catching up on them. They've had a few good guests on lately, but it's just finding the time on that. And you said even the ones we do ourselves, I'd like to go and watch them to see how badly I do on this. But I usually think, well, I know what the content is, so I don't watch all of it. I try and have a look to see if there is anything we're doing wrong on there. But I thought, well, if you analyze it too much, I don't think I'd do anything if you start looking at yourself too much. So.
I have a tendency not to listen to podcasts at all when I'm home. I listen to them when I'm on the go, when I'm in the car. I have like a 40-minute drive one way, so I can generally get one longer podcast in on the way to and from work on one day, for the most part. If not, then I'll just start it out the second day, and then I have the other one set up to where all I got to do is punch a button, and the next one I want to listen to will go to. And so through the course of the week, I generally get through most of the podcasts that I'm listening to, at least their most recent episodes. But when I'm at home, I will watch video content. For instance, I watch a lot of things again on YouTube, but one of the things I've enjoyed off Relatecast channel is the Life Edge. I actually watched. I watched. He said they're not coming back until January, but I've really enjoyed watching the one with the Giovanni Tromba, I believe his name is, the restaurateur. You could tell they were really good friends, and the picture was beautiful. I mean, the way the thing was set up, the way the shots were done back and forth, and you can tell they've known each other for decades, obviously, and that was really, really well done. And I really enjoyed that because that's what I've always envisioned doing. And I've got to do it some in my podcasting. Basically on the audio thing, though, not necessarily, I haven't done as much video, really, but to be able to sit down and interview people in the audio format. And I've done it in restaurants before and other places. And I just love the way that was set up. They were sitting at the table and you could see stuff going on in the background. The audio was great. The pictures were just popping. I just love the way the video looked on that too. It was just a great interview all the way around.
Glad you said that, because I mentioned that to Rick too, that because he used his new Canon 5 DSR, the new one, the 50 megapixel camera, but that doesn't have 4K, but it was just
didn't need
10
it.
And I said, you could just tell it was just beautiful. That's exactly what I said. The quality, and I've been fortunate enough. I've had dinner in that restaurant and met Giovanni, so
cool.
Just know he is such a lovely fella. So I've been in that restaurant too. But I said to Ricky, just did so well. It just makes it just a different thing when you interview people like that. I said, I wish we could do more like that, but it came out really well, I thought. And that's what I said exactly to Rick, was the action in the background was just nice, and that, and just so poor Giovanni was a bit sweating there. I think he was a bit because you could see being put under pressure, because you do when you've got the lights on you and that, you just get a bit nervous sometimes. But it didn't come over. He came over very well and did such an excellent job. I was really proud of that.
What made him be able to be comfortable though was the fact of his relationship with Rick, because you could tell that Rick really has affection for this guy. And then he on the other hand trusts Rick. And you would ask him stuff and he'd go, I make the food, people pay me and they eat it. And it wasn't anything like that. It was like he was telling his philosophy, of the food and how important it is to have real, local, fresh ingredients, eating healthy. I mean, that was his mission. I mean, this guy's really into this, and that's his mission. And so, I just sat there and watched. I mean, Yeah, there wasn't any question at all that I was going to watch that one. But like you say, I'm looking forward to that show coming back because I'm wanting to see more of what they've had and what they're doing. I really like the concept of the show as well.
I like that because, I'm into technology and e-learning, but that's something totally different, which is really good. And he's got a great co-host there that comes on most of all the time there, but they're off at the moment as Rick's put a little show out just saying where they've gone, because there was a bit of a time, as said, where Rick had to move offices, and there was about a month there toing and froing, so now back on board. But of course, with the Christmas break and that, everybody's away, so probably nice enough to start in the new year as well. So, but we'll be getting on to the Tech Down Over on Friday anyway. So
sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. I kind of feel like I know Rick already after watching some of these shows.
It's like Petticoat Junction meeting Green Acres, isn't it? Remember?
Which one are we?
But remember them, Petticoat
Oh,
Junction?
both of them, totally, yeah. Which one?
They met, usually they would go, the Green Acres would take the train down to Petticoat Junction. There would always be there.
Well, actually, my wife could tell me this, but I do believe that Petticoat Junction was a spinoff from Green Acres, or the other way around. I'm not sure which.
I don't know, but they were both done at the same time. One was...
Yes.
One started off and they had people from Petticoat Junction or Green Acres. I forget which way it was. I would probably think Eddie Albert and Ava Gabor. Is it Ava Gabor? I think those probably would be the first one, I would have thought.
I do believe because they came from the city. And so then the other one was started off of that. Yeah, I agree. No, we watched Green Acres all the time.
Yeah, I used to love. Did you see Zsa Zsa just died the other day?
Yeah, I heard that too. And then for science fiction lovers, Carrie Fisher passed away.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, I mean that's sad. There's a whole bunch of people that are just begrudging what a bad year they had in 2016, and it's kind of like, on Facebook they're going, Carrie Fisher, really? Did you have to do this final thing to me, 2016? It's like,
it's
sorry.
like so she planned it. Yeah, that's right.
It's like, I had to claim one more thing from your life before I expired and turned it over to 2017. That's sad.
Yeah,
she was only 60.
Well, that's right. And as I said, at least Zsa Zsa, she was 99, wasn't she? She was only 2 months off 100 or something, wasn't she?
That's sad. That's sad. If you're that close to 100 and you don't quite make it, that's sad.
Yeah. Well, what did she always used to say? She says, "I'm a housekeeper, darling.
Mm-hmm.
When I leave the man, but I keep the house."
Yeah, keep the house. Yeah. How many times was she married? Almost as many as Elizabeth Taylor, I think.
7 or 8 times, I think. So. It's just strange. But I sometimes think in Hollywood and those sort of circles, it's part of the business. The marriage is, there might be a bit of thing there, but it's all got to do with the business of Hollywood and all that keeps it going, I think. So.
Well, and who can help your career, next? You actually marry that next person who can help your career, make you look better, or introduce you to some new circles. The ones I have a lot of respect for, that in spite of all the pressure, people like, for instance, Mark Harmon.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they have been married forever. And I mean, there's just tons of these. There's several people that have just been married for decades and decades and decades. And I just have a lot of respect for the ones that do. Dan Blocker, who was on Bonanza, played Hoss on Bonanza.
Okay.
He was living when he got the job in Bonanza. That was his first really, really huge, he'd been in some other stuff, but it was just his first big, huge break. He was living in this little 3-bedroom house. And, of course, Bonanza went for like 20 years. I mean, and it was steady employment. It was big. He made all kinds of money from it and everything like that. And you know where he was living whenever he got done and all that money came in? And you know where he was living?
Where was that?
Still in the same house. He never moved. It was his job. He went to his job. He went in there and did his acting around. Hey, Paul, and then he went back home and lived a family life. And then when he had his heart attack, he was still living in the same house.
But it's just amazing, like you said, when there's lots of people that you see around. Like another one was Larry Hagman, and was it Mary Martin, his wife? But they, Larry Hagman died was it this year or last year?
Oh
I can't
no, it was
remember.
earlier
Only
than that, I think.
Oh, maybe a couple, 2 or
It
3
could have been
years ago.
2015, maybe he died. Yeah.
But he was married to the same for Mary Martin forever, wasn't he? There was no sort of scandal or anything like that with them, and that's just quite amazing. So how some of them do, because it would be hard to keep a marriage together when they do these things like the films and shows, because they nearly have to be cut off from their family for months on end. It's been like in the Navy or something, isn't it?
Well, no, I think it would be. I think the ones that seem to survive, and it's just kind of sad, but the ones that seem to survive are the same ones that survive if you're an over-the-road truck driver or, something like that. It's the ones to where one has this really, really fantastic career going, and the other one is kind of keeping the home fires burning. And while a lot of men and their egos cannot take that, some of them can. At the same time, if one of them is out there and famous and everything's going on, then the other one kind of steps back in order to, support that and have the family going and to keep everything going the way it should, then those are the ones that the ones that are on a team. And it's not so much about, well, yeah, I'm going to be famous. And, if you're going to be famous, I have to be just as famous as you. The competition relationships don't last. The one where they're both on the same team. And you get the impression from Mark Harmon, if his wife would have taken off, he would probably be home taking care of the kids. Whatever his, whatever needs to be done, he would probably be doing that. So it depends on, if they have a team-like relationship and we're all in this thing together, and then however it goes, that is what we do. Or the ones that both of them have to be out and gallivanting around and running around, and the kids are always under nannies and tutors and different things like that. Those are the ones that don't seem to hold together very well. It's, if you're on a team, it works. If you're competing, it doesn't work so well.
But then again, I suppose it's what the spotlight's on as well is everybody knows somebody who's split up and that. But if it was on the TV, on the news every day, you'd think everybody's doing it. But as I said, there's thousands upon thousands of actors that you don't hear about, that they're not getting divorces, because that's not very newsworthy, really, is it? So it sort of keeps the business going as well, but you just spotlights on that. So,
well, I'd love to have $1 for the number of times that Faith Hill and Tim McGraw have divorced, according to the tabloids. Mark Harmon and his wife, they've divorced, but they're all still together, so it's like, and they ask him why. Well, I think there was a quote from Faith Hill, the country singer Faith Hill. She said, "Why can't happy be a story?"
Yeah, that's right. No.
I mean, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being happy?
The thing is, what I like what I hate with the tabloids is you see a big headline like you were saying, like Mark Harmon fights cancer, but when you look at the article in the show, that's a part of the character in the show he fought. It had nothing to do with, and they just really grab you like that in those tabloids, don't they? Or
well,
said,
no, they don't. I hate those things.
No, they don't, but that's what I mean. You just stare at the supermarket. They're just there. You see them on there, and you think that's what they want you to pick it up. But I bet you it's got something to do with a show, or like you said, however many times so-and-so's getting married or getting divorced and all that. And as I said, most of the time, they said, haven't they been divorced before? No, that was just last month and the month before and all that, because people will buy the paper or whatever. But I'm just still amazed, though, that the supermarkets still have those tabloids. I wouldn't have thought anybody would bother anymore with they don't do the same sort of thing on the internet. Or, well, they do, actually. I keep seeing when I fire up the Windows 10, what do they call it? Not Explorer anymore. What do they call their Windows thing?
Oh, I still use the old Explorer. I didn't like that new one.
Well, the new one, when I switch it on, it comes up with, and it's like the tabloid. It has flash headlines. So-and-so done. Oh, and you see all them and gets you to click on, what do they call it? Clickbait.
Yes.
Don't they?
Yes.
Clickbait.
Well, inferior minds want to know. I mean, but on Facebook, every day on Facebook, you have your main stream right in front of you. Slightly off to the right over here are
Oh,
3 or
yeah.
4 or 5 news stories, and the one on the bottom will always say something like, "We say goodbye to The Rock," or "We say goodbye to, so
Mm.
and so, some other, and what they're doing to lead you to believe that Chuck Norris died.
Yeah, that's right. But it's
And to be honest with you, if I really, really want to check that out, if I see one that I really want to check out, I go off of Facebook and do a search on that person's name on Google. I will not give them the satisfaction of clicking on their bait.
no, but
It's like,
but they
because
still.
and then you'll go through 3 or 4 or 5 separate, I've tried it before just to see, and you'll go through 3 or 4 or 5 separate websites with ads, and you'll never get to the story.
I'm glad you said that. I've tried that once because I thought, oh, what's that? And I thought, hang on, what am I looking for? Oh, it's just gone. You never get to the story that you want.
And then you
And you think-
forget by the time you get there
and-
because of all the other things they've thrown into you. And you think, okay, what was I looking for? And you're about six websites deep. And it's kind of like, no, the whole point is just to throw you out there to look at some ads with a sensational headline. It makes me angry enough to where, they're not going to get me, So I automatically don't click when I see a sensational headline like that because it makes me angry. I guess that's wrong. I just don't want to be a stupid person. And so I don't click on their sensational, ads and stuff. I just don't.
The one thing I do like though with the internet and cookies and that, I do like it that even some of all the adverts that are around the least, at least they get tailored to you. So they know what you've been looking at. So I get to see some, active speakers there. I'll see video cameras, still cameras, and at least it's all from the stores I look at, and that. So you say, oh, B&H keeps coming up. So that's one of my things. I've got to, on one of my trips, I've got to get to New York and go to B&H. Have you ever seen that store?
Oh, that's like Mecca.
Yeah.
I have wanted to go there. I've wanted to go to a Guitar Center, which I saw one at a distance one time and didn't have time to go to it. I've wanted to go to a Guitar Center. I wanted to go to B&H. I remember B&H back in the 90s or so in my photography days, and just to go and see all the stuff. You can actually see it in person instead of wondering, because our local camera shop would have some things, but you get to see real stuff over there and you get to see all of it, and I've always wanted to go to B&H. That's pretty fancy.
Because they just have everything that you could possibly want, but it was just amazing that. But I think I'll have to go there leave my credit cards at home, and so I'm sure I'd have to buy something in there with going through there. There's bound to be something else. And what somebody else calls it, I get their catalog in the post, and somebody says that's porn for tech geeks.
Oh, yeah. There's a centerfold. Yeah. Yeah. Is it like a big camera, without the cover on,
But it is. I've just got one recently, the catalog, and it's just something you just like flick, and it's still something different about flicking through a catalog than looking at it online, because I tend to find more things because I would never see it otherwise unless you click. Oh, I want to see on a 5-inch external LCD monitor for my camera. But if you don't know that you want to do that, you don't know where to click sometimes. Whereas in the proper magazine, you can flick through. Oh, look at that, and you just flick through everything. So it's a good. Sending all this way as well must cost them a bit because it's not a light magazine. It is quite a chunky bit of paper and that. So
yeah, I think it is. I know way back when there was just a big old thick thing. There used to be one called the Computer Shopper too, and it would have a few articles in it, but it was mostly exactly what it said. It was this thick and big, almost the size of a small, local newspaper. And so, but it was all ads. Every bit of it was just mostly ads with an occasional article here and there about something. But that's what it was, the Computer Shopper. And it was before you could order online so easily, like you say, back in the 80s. And so if you wanted something, you got a Computer Shopper. And that was basically your equivalent of the internet today, to where you would just do a search It was categorized, color-coded, categorized to where you could go and look at all the computers, and see what it was. And of course, all the ads would be in there too. But it was pretty exciting to get those catalogs.
What I do miss though these days is I used to love subscribing to a lot of the computer magazines, like the Mac magazines and the PC magazines, and some of them are still there, but I don't buy them anymore. And the simple reason was I used to get them, and you used to sit at home and flick through that, and you would see about all the different things that was coming out, all the different things that was happening. But now you open them up, and it's all old news. You have no idea, all of whatever's in there. That's old news. I knew about that. There's no excitement in there. Whereas I used to get the old Mac magazine and just sit. Well, what's coming up? But no sooner something gets announced 5 minutes ago, you know about it. So if you get a magazine, and that magazine will be at least a week old by the time it's published to get it all together, and so it's just old news, which I do miss that, because I used to love getting the magazines and just sitting down with a coffee and just looking and reading the articles on the different things. But there's no need to now, because there's always somebody doing a podcast on some, like there's Leo Laporte does all this Mac Break Weekly, so talk all about Mac things and all about technology. So there's always something that you can find out on the internet about things. So I do miss that a little bit.
Well, there's also live streaming from the events themselves. So telling you about it and then telling you a week later what was at Macworld or whatever they're going to call it. You find there are people there streaming live. And so the news is old before they could even think about getting a magazine out on it. It's just local and new.
What I can't do though is with music. I've tried having music on the iPad and using that, but I can't handle that. I've still got to have paper music.
Oh, okay. I hadn't thought of that.
Sheet music, because you can read it, but it's just not the same. I just still like to, and also it's when you're learning a bit of music, being able to scribble on it with a pencil.
Yes.
That's very hard to do it on an iPad and that, but I still think just music, you still need to have the physical one on there. There's still, because I think you'd still have to need something. I'm sure there is something like that. There's a foot pedal you can get to advance it onto the next page. But I just think it's, you get some sheet music where you can have two A4 sheets at the same time and just flick one. You can, if you do, but that's when you're learning. If you're doing it any good, you should be able to learn it and not need the music eventually.
Maybe so. I did get around to, I haven't gotten it yet, but I did get around to ordering that module for my Zoom H5 recorder.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it is let's see, I got the number here, EXH6. It'll also work on, of course, on the Zoom H6, but the Zoom H5 has got 2 XLR inputs on it. You can also, of course, plug the TRS inputs, those cables into it as well. They work the same. So you get 2 of those, but this module gives you 2 more. So you can actually plug in 4 XLR connectors in, like 4 separate microphones into the Zoom H5, each with its own individual track that you can treat independently, just like I'm doing an audio recording of what we're doing right now. And it's going to, your track and my track are completely separate. So I can treat, and they're handled differently too. Mine's a local thing. Yours has already been compressed and actually limited and stuff already. So I treat your track and my track differently and try to get them to sound as much alike as I possibly can. Well, this would give you 4 separate tracks. So you could take this Zoom H5, plug in 4 microphones, sit down at a table. Everyone could have their own microphone sitting at a table and have a panel discussion that way. This same module will also work on a Zoom H6, which has 4 connections already, and it would give you 6 connections on the Zoom H6 recorder, which I don't have that when I have the H5, but you can imagine sitting down and having 6 microphones, 6 people, each one on their own individual track that you can treat independently.
It's incredible what you can do with the audio. I was just talking to a friend the other week, and they said, remember years ago how we used to get tapes and make compilations, because we used to do the freestyle dressage, and we do that to music, and we used to make up tapes to the rider, but it had to be precise. So when the horse goes into a canter, it had to be on the mark.
Right.
So when on the beat, and you had to do it. So sometimes you had to slow the music down slightly, slightly speed it up. So when the crescendo came at the end, they were stopped, and so you had to time it and do. And we used to do a lot of that, and with tapes, and it used to take us forever to do that. And I said, look at what we used to do. We could probably do that within an hour, under an hour these days.
Oh,
and
easily.
It used to take weeks, because I used to have to go. I'd film them doing that, and then go back and get some music, and then play around, and then put it all together. Whereas these days, you could just overlay. It would be so much easier. And I used to have. I don't know whose I used to borrow. I can't remember if it's mine or what. It was used to be a Tascam multi-track tape player I tried. That was one of the more advanced ones. It was just on a normal audio cassette.
Did it? Four channels, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was it in a bit, just being able to fade over the one and just have it. And I thought, that was just without having to splice tape like you used to. And I used to do that years ago as well with film, and that physically cut the film and splice things together. I thought, how on earth did we ever get anything done with it doing that the old way? But things have certainly come on with the advent of like the Final Cut and Audacity, like you use, and Audition and that from Adobe. It's just and like I remember even years back using trying to use the Sony one. What was that called?
Actually, I've got it. SoundForge.
I was going to say
yes.
That was, and I thought it was so complicated. I couldn't even figure out how to, because years ago it wasn't so much like, even with the video editing, it wasn't the editing, but how did you get it out? There was no easy way. Years ago you couldn't get the video out of a computer. It was very hard. Whereas now you just output it very easily. But the same thing with the audio. You'd get all this sound. Now, how do I get it out properly to get the sound out nicely? But
then you had to send it to a tape, which would be an additional generation away, which would take some of the quality away from it.
You had to be very careful. Same thing with video. By the time you edited a bit of this and that, you think, oh God, it was not worth watching. Whereas now with digital and that, you can have a real nice pristine copy of that, and especially with the raw data and that, which has no loss in it. You can change a lot of the contrast and the brightness and that without affecting the quality. So even JPEGs and still shots, which are highly compressed, you can still change them with still an excellent quality, unless you don't do them 50 times changes on, don't do a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. They'll still turn fairly good, won't they? So.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you leave an audio file, as long as you keep it in WAV, it's one of the lossless formats, and don't compress it into an MP3 until the very, very last, as I say around here, the last gun is fired. Then you get everything edited the way you want it. It's in a WAV form. Everything is good. Then you export it into an MP3, and then that makes it to where people can consume it on their telephones and their MP3 players or whatever. Then as long as you wait to the last minute to do the MP3 and you don't take MP3 sounds, I mean, I try my best to have WAV. If I add external audio, then I'll bring a WAV file in. If it has to be an MP3, that's okay, but you try to make sure nothing is compressed, because once you do the final compression, then it compresses it yet again. And so I don't like that. So you can lose, but you just have to be careful with that, just like you had to be with tapes and things before.
But I think at least now it doesn't matter if you, with the way storage is, you don't mind having a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 200 megabyte file. Not a problem these days. Whereas remember when you had a 1.4 megabyte floppy disk, it was a problem back then, whereas you couldn't take one of the, how many of them? It would take about 20 of them to take one picture today, wouldn't it?
Well, my first my first hard drive was 30 megabytes. Okay, and that was back during the DOS days. They took the regular Seagate MFM formatted 20 megabyte drive, which was kind of the industry standard, and come up with a different type of formatting, RLL formatting or something. And they got 30 megabytes out of the same drive. So it was only like $10 more than the other drive because it didn't cost them anymore, but it was 30 megabytes. One of my audio shows, one of my podcast episodes, once I get it down to MP3, you can make them smaller, but I do it at 128 because I am kind of a snob about stuff like that. Some people like to do them at 64 bits or whatever. I do it at 128, and it is almost a megabyte a minute. So I am putting out 59, 60 megabyte files of each of my podcasts each week. This one here will come out, and it will be one side or the other of 60 megabytes, which is actually a reasonably small file for a podcast.
That's right. But that's what we never used to be able to do. And I'll just pick this up. I saw this kicking around on the floor, and I thought it's 32 gigabyte memory stick. Well, it's like you just that's nothing. That's they're just always laying around like that would be said 32 gigabyte if you had a computer that could do that, and you think, oh. But now they just seem to be floating around. It's only 32 gigabyte. Like, that's nothing nowadays, is it? You think, I want the 128 gigabyte.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Where I do my actual work for my podcast is on a 128 stick sticking in the front of my computer here. Because if it blows up, all I have to do is pull that stick out, pop it into a laptop around here. Haven't lost a thing. You just keep on moving. It's not like, oh no, it's on the hard drive and I lost it. No, I haven't lost it because all the work that I do is on that 128 gig stick. And I back up everything onto a 4 terabyte external drive because, like you say, I'm not working so much with video like you are. You need bigger storage than I do. But it's going to be a while before I fill up that 4 terabyte drive. There's 2 terabytes in the computer itself, but that 128 gig and then that external 4 terabyte, if this computer goes completely belly up, all I've got to do is pull that hard drive, pull the stick, and I'm up and running on another computer. I've got all my files, everything I need on those 2 external drives.
And I have Dropbox as well. So I have a few things on there, because the thing is, I like with Dropbox, it's cloud storage, but it's not. It's cloud storage with having it on your local machine.
Yes.
So if your machine blows up, you've got it backed up there. But also, if you've got a laptop as well, you can have it on both. So you've got a locally stored copy. So if the Dropbox disappears, it's been around, but people say, oh, it's been around it'll never disappear. But things that never disappear quite often disappear, don't they?
Yes.
So I'd never have one just cloud storage where it's nowhere else. It's and that's what I like with them. And I always used to worry with that, thinking with when you have it on your iPad and your iPhone and that, thinking it's going to clutter up all the things. But the way it works with an iPad and an iPhone, it won't load everything on there. It will only load when you ask it to. On there. Whereas I always used to worry, whereas on the PC and that you have it will sync and sort of mirror on your PC, but it won't on an iPad or an iPhone. You can just link it, but it'll just say, do you want to download it? Yes. But it shows everything on there because it knows, well, you only got a small, let's say if you've got a 32 gigabyte phone, you're just going to fill it up with all the stuff from your Dropbox. But I think I have one, forget what what would it be? It's not. I forget what the size is of my storage is now on Dropbox. I forget what it is now. So I just forget what it is. So
it was in the gigs. I think you told me at one point.
Yeah, I think it might be 1 terabyte. Is it? Could that be it?
That does sound familiar. I think it's quite a bit. Yeah. The problem I had as soon as I started, we opened up that extra directory for you on there. I've plugged in things before and it asked me if I wanted to back it all up to Dropbox, and I'm like, is that going to like fill up your Dropbox? I'm thinking, no, I don't. But it just pops up and asks me sometimes because I don't have any separate. I had to do an account, but I don't have any separate Dropboxing going on except for you.
If you put it in that file, that will fill up mine.
Well, that's what I was worried about because I've plugged in some pretty respectable gigabyteage in there, and all of a sudden it says, hey, would you like to back up this 4 terabyte drive to the no.
I can always, because I own it, I can always dump it, you see. So,
Yeah.
and the way I use on those shared files like me and you use, that's what I always say. If we put them there, but only put your copy there. Don't put the one and only. Put a copy there, because I'll quite often clear it out once we've done. I haven't been, because we haven't done much in there lately, because we've done the shows live on there. And since when the Blab was on, we used to use it quite a bit, because we used to have to get the file and put it together and then put it on YouTube. But these days we've got it straight into YouTube. I meant to say, did you have a look, see whether the stream was going when we started off?
Yes, it's running right here. You saw me look to the left every now and then. Yeah, no, I had it sitting there waiting, and yes, it has been running just fine.
I forgot to send you the link this week, and I thought,
well,
I wonder.
I clicked on the last one. It actually showed up. The video looking thing showed up on on your on Skype. You know, it has the thing. Well, it had that link showing up on the record of your thing, and so I just clicked on it. It came up.
Yeah, because that'll stay there forever until you clear out the thing, which is quite good on Skype on that. But you just go to Relate Cast, it would show a live stream happening as well. Oh my goodness, it's nearly 10 o'clock. So we did start a little bit earlier, so we've been going for more than an hour. I think. Yeah,
we started a little early. There was one other thing I wanted to say something about. I did order something else. You remember this microphone here that I seem to really enjoy having? Well,
that's right.
It has a brother to it that is normally about $80, and they dropped this microphone down to $54 and so many odd cents. And so I ordered 2 of them. So that'll actually, I like having them around. If we do go over and actually do an episode, I might take my wife over to the Cinema Toast Crunch people. We'll have to take our own microphones, and so I'll have a couple of those. If we go on the road to do something, I won't have to take this microphone out of its mounting or whatever. We can actually go and use those microphones. That would give me these 2 here, the one I have, the one my wife will be using over there. And then that gives me 1 more of these and 2 of the other new microphones. They're both silver, to where I could, once I have my little module for this H5 too, I could take that, go out and have 3 microphones plugged into it, and off we go. Of course, there's 2 more older microphones down on our PA system downstairs, so I could bring extra mics out, but I could run 4 people anytime I wanted to now, and sounds like a good thing to be doing.
Well, yes, as I said, now we're finished now for this show. So, and I think, yes, this will be the last weekly catch-up for this year. 2017 for next week, won't it? So
yeah, that is true for this one, but I will see you before next year, because we're going to do Tech Down Over on Friday night.
So yes, so for anybody who's interested, there's going to be the 2 Jeffries with Rick Zanardi on Tech Down Over on 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time, and what's it? 10 o'clock Australian summer time on Saturday, 10 a.m. Saturday morning. So I'll be in the future. So if you do like this one, always click the button and subscribe, and have a look at some of the other things on RelateCast, because as I said, Life Edge that Geoff's already getting into. I get into the Elin Chat and Lectora Live, because that's what I really love. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Well, hopefully there's a lot of people watching, and we'll see you in the new year for the weekly catch-up. So bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at geoffblanchard.com.